Luigi's Plumbing. How can I help you?
Hi, I've got a leaky tap.
Could I please get your first and last name?
Yeah, it's Samuel Gruber.
Thanks, Samuel. And what's the address where you need the service?
32 Windsor Gardens.
Thank you. I'm just going to check our next available appointment times for you. We have availability on Thursday, January 29th from 2:15 p.m. to 3 p.m. or from 3:15 p.m. to 5 p.m. Which time works best for you?
Thursday at 2:15 would be good.
Okay, Samuel. I have you booked for Thursday, January 29th at 2:15 p.m. at 32 Windsor Gardens for the leaky tap.
So I'm going to show you how to build a voice agent like the one you just heard that never misses a call. And this is going to be ideal if you run any kind of service business where missed calls represents missed revenue. So we're going to build this in Retail AI today. I've tested lots of different voice AI tools over the last few months, and Retail is one of my favorites, frankly, because it's a good balance of cost, quality, latency, all the things that matters, but it's also very easy to build on. It's accessible to beginners, and you don't need to mess around with APIs or write any code. Assuming you don't already have an account, I'll drop a link below, which will get you about 70 minutes worth of free calls. You can go ahead and sign up, and that's going to take you into a page like this. So we're going to click create an agent, and we're going to go for a voice agent. And for your first agent, I recommend building this as a conversational flow agent. This just means that you can build it on a nice visual editor. You don't need to write one gigantic prompt. It's much easier to understand, but there's also some latency benefits to doing it. Now, we're going to start from scratch today. And generally, when creating a new agent, I find the best place to start is to actually go to ChatGPT or Claude and do some of the heavy lifting around prompting and thinking over there first. So I've created this prompt. Can you build a voice agent for retail AI that a plumbing business called Luigi's Plumbing could use to answer calls 24/7 and book appointments for potential clients? It needs to differentiate between new leads who need a quote, emergency callouts, and existing repeat customers. The goals to book appointments: please give me a global prompt with the role, purpose, goal, and guardrails, followed by prompts I can use for each node step by step so I can implement the conversational flow one step at a time. Okay, I had to do this on Gemini because it turns out I've blown through all of my credits building silly projects on Claude Code this week. So we've got this that's come back. This looks fairly decent as a initial attempt. And this will all make sense in a moment when we start putting things together. So firstly, I'm going to copy the global prompt. We're going to go back into Retail AI, and I'll just explain a few concepts we've got going on here. So down the left, we've got our nodes. These are things that our voice agent can do. So if you wanted, for example, to transfer to a human, you can just click that and we can hook that up to a node like that. Then down the right here, we've got settings we can configure. So if you click on a node, we can change settings for that node. So we could make it use a different LLM if we wanted, or we could give that specific node access to some knowledge like randomly the rules of golf. Why not? And then if we click out of the nodes, we've got our global settings. So a few things to point out here. So firstly, we're going to enter our global prompt. This we're going to keep relatively lean because we're going to put a lot of instructions of what the agent should do in the individual conversation nodes. So this should really just be things like the persona, things you don't want your agent to do. I've created a separate video where I've talked through how to write global prompts and node prompts, but we're just going to paste in what Gemini have given us. I'm not going to read this out, but you can see, for example, it's saying your voice is friendly, professional, and efficient. Your job is answering inbound calls 24/7, triaging, and then some guardrails. So some things that we don't want this to do. So no pricing, no DIY advice, emergency protocol. So that all looks good to me. We're using GPT 4.1. I would always recommend with voice agents, start with GPT 4.1. It's essentially a good balance between cost, latency, and quality. Then if you notice a problem with one of those three things, like if you're getting really slow latency, then you could change to something a bit faster. But the faster the model, generally the more expensive it's going to be. So start with GPT 4.1, then adjust later. We're going to leave this on rigid mode. What this means is that our agent is going to have to follow the exact flow of the conversation that we design. If you change this to, if we notice weird behavior again, we can change this to flex mode, which gives the agent a bit more autonomy to jump between nodes. Again, that'll become a little bit clearer when we test this and see what it actually does. Then up here, we've got the voice. I'm going to change this just because we are in the UK to something with a British accent. Let's go for Anthony. Then for the time being, there's nothing else that we need to change. The defaults on retail are set really well. The only thing you might want to consider doing when you're building this yourself is adding some knowledge. So you could upload a PDF or a document or even a link to your website that has information on things like pricing and services. That then gives your agent the ability to look at that information, but helpfully it means we don't have to stick all that information in a prompt, which would slow down our latency. But otherwise, we will leave that where it is for now, and we'll start building out our nodes. So first thing I'm going to do is change our welcome node. Now in retail, you can have a node either read a static sentence, so this means it's going to say the same thing, whatever you enter here, to every caller. Or we can use a prompt, which means it's then going to use the prompt to work out what to say, and so everyone's going to get a slightly different response. So for the first node, it's generally okay to use a static sentence because you can just say, Luigi's Plumbing, how can I help you, to every caller. That's going to be absolutely fine. But for most nodes, we are going to use a prompt. So we're then going to set some transitions. So for the first one, I'm going to say if the user says emergency, leak, flooding, or indicates that this is urgent, we're going to create a route for that. Then we're going to have a route for if the user requires a quote or it's a non-urgent issue. And then finally, I'm going to add a route in case it is a existing customer. So first we're going to build out the route for if this is an emergency. So we're going to add a conversation node. And this one's going to be a prompt because it's going to need to be a little bit different depending on how someone has responded to this first question. So I'm just going to copy over the prompt that Gemini has written. It looks pretty good to my eye. And by the way, this is a really good way of writing node prompts. A lot of people like to write their prompts in Markdown and other formats. Generally, I find just doing numbered step-by-step instructions is the clearest and the most logical way for the voice agent to understand what to do. So we've got acknowledge the urgency with empathy, ask for the service address immediately so you can check if there's a technician in the area. Probably don't need to say that because I'm assuming this is kind of a one-man band. Ask for a brief description of the emergency, and then make them aware of the emergency call-out fee. You cannot proceed to booking unless they verbally accept the emergency fee. Great, so we're going to just hook that up like that. So this has essentially two routes. User agrees to emergency call-out fee, and user does not agree to emergency call-out fee. And we'll handle both of these routes separately. So if we go back to Gemini, we can see that it's telling us if they accept the fee, we're going to go to node 5, which is scheduling. And then if they decline, we're going to go to node 3, standard service. So we're going to copy this one and we're going to add another conversation node. So we're going to drop that prompt in there. So this is first going to differentiate whether or not they have used us before. So I think in that case, we can probably rule out this transition and then just have existing customers come off of this one. So we're saying if they're a repeat customer, we're going to say, welcome back. We appreciate your business. This is a bit cringy. We'd probably need to rewrite this to sound a bit better, but the logic here looks absolutely fine. And then if they're a new lead, say, great, we'd love to help you with that. And then ask for their name and address. Perfect. So we're going to add a transition for once their name, address, and issue are collected. And then from that, we can then go on to scheduling. So next, Gemini is suggesting we add a kind of FAQ pricing side node. So I'll just show you how I would structure this. So I would add a node, pop that prompt in here. So the user is asking for prices, and then here's how we're going to respond. We're going to make this a global node. So what this means is that at any point during the conversation, the agent can decide to jump to this node if it is relevant. And we're just going to leave that there for the moment. We'll connect this up to something else in a second. So if we just come back here. So if it's an emergency and someone doesn't agree to an emergency call out, we want to treat it like a non-emergency issue because we're basically going to say, okay, if you're not going to pay out the call out fee, then we can still come to you, but not urgently. So we then need to collect their name and address and schedule them in an appointment. So we're just going to connect that up to that. Now we're going to look at scheduling. So I'm going to show you how to hook this up to a calendar. So the easiest option here is to use cow.com. Retail have a native integration that you can set up in a few clicks. I'll show you how to do that. And cow.com is sort of like a bridge. You can connect it into your Google Calendar or Outlook calendar. So we're first going to go over to cow.com. You need to create an account. It's completely free. And then we need to create an event type. So I'm going to create a new event type. We're just going to call this quote. And you're going to need this little number up in the URL here in a second. So if we just go back to retail, and we're going to add a new node that's going to do our scheduling. So I'm going to pop this prompt in, which says you've got the customer's details and the issue. You now need to book them a time. So first we're going to call a check availability tool. I'll show you this in a second. Then offer 2 available slots. And then once they pick a time, call the book appointment tool to firm it. So we need to now connect it to these 2 different tools or functions. So I'll click function and we're going to add a new one. And as you can see here, we've got that native integration. So we click check calendar availability and we need 3 things: the API key, event type ID, which is that number in the URL, and we need to set our time zone. Important that you set your time zone correctly, otherwise it's going to book appointments at 2 in the morning. So we're going to get that event ID from the URL, pop that in there, and then to get your API key, just go to settings, API key, add, give it a name, hit save, copy, and then you're going to bung that back in here like that. And that should all work. Now, obviously, you can spend some time on cow.com setting up your availability and how you want to do appointment setting. I'm going to leave all as the default by now. The only thing I'll quickly show you is two things. So if you click in here and click availability, it's going to show you your time zone down here. This needs to be entered in retail where I just put Europe, London exactly as it is here. If these two don't line up, you're going to get issues. The other thing that I will show you is that if you want to connect this into Google Calendar or Outlook, click advanced and you can set up the syncing between them here. So back to retail, we're going to click add. And I'm just going to leave it there for the moment. We'll connect this all up in a moment. We're just going to do the same thing again, but this time we're going to do book on the calendar. So the event ID is exactly the same. It's this one up here. Pop that in there. Europe, London for our time zone. And we'll pop our API key in again. Hit save. Add that. And we've got two functions that should now work on cow.com. So next we're going to set up our transitions. So we're just going to call this one check availability. And we'll hook him up to that. And then we're going to create another one for book appointment. And we'll connect that one here. And one thing you can do if you like is have these nodes say something while they're executing. This can be a good idea because sometimes it can take a few seconds for these to run and actually find some available slots. So instead of having an awkward pause, you could say something like, I'm just checking those times for you. And then this one, just making that booking, give me 2 secs. So then we can have some transitions off this saying booking successful. And then we probably want to have a route for if the booking is unsuccessful, where we could escalate this and transfer the call to a human. So booking unsuccessful, can leave that there like that. This one for our transition, we're going to just have times found, and we can connect this one back over here like that. So that should have worked. Now we want to confirm back to the caller that the booking has been made successfully if it has. So we can connect this node to this one like this, saying confirm the booking details one last time. I've booked you on day at address for the issue. Ask if there's anything else. If not, say thank you for choosing Luigi's Plumbing. Have a great day and hang up. And I'm just going to explicitly add an end call node, and then we'll connect him up like that. There we go. So now we're just going to go back over some of our routes and just mop up any transitions where we don't have anything set. So here, for example, if the booking is unsuccessful, we can just say, tell the user you're having issues and are going to transfer them. And then we're going to add a call transfer node. And you would need to add in the phone number of where you want this to get transferred to. You can also set whether you want this to be a cold transfer where it just transfers the call directly, or a warm transfer where the agent then debriefs the human that it's being transferred to on what's been said already on the call. So generally speaking, you probably want to do a warm transfer, but it's obviously going to keep the caller on hold for a little bit longer. So there we've got our agent. That should work. Inevitably, there's going to be a few edge cases and things we've not thought of, and some bits are going to be a little bit unnatural. But that, for me, is good enough to give that a little test run, and then we can make a few adjustments as needed. So I'm going to start by testing this agent directly in the platform. I'll then connect it to a phone number and call it from my actual phone. So we're going to click Test Agent, and we're going to fire up a audio test.
Luigi's Plumbing, how can I help you?
Hi, I've got a leaky tap that I need fixing.
Have you used us before?
Nope.
Great, we'd love to help you with that. Could I please get your first and last name?
Yep, it's Marcus.
Thanks, Marcus. And what's the address where you need the tap fixed?
32 Windsor Gardens.
Thank you. Could you tell me a bit more about the issue with your tap? Is it constantly dripping, or is there something else going on?
Yeah, it's been dripping for the last few days.
Got it. Thanks for letting me know. I'll just check our next available appointment times for you. We have availability on Thursday, January 29th from 1:45 p.m. to 5 p.m, Friday, January 30th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, and Monday, February 2nd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Which one works best for you?
Thursday at 2 p.m. would be good.
Okay, Marcus. I have you booked for Thursday, January 29th at 2 p.m. at 32 Windsor Gardens for the leaky tap. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
No, that is all good. Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Luigi's Plumbing. Have a great day.
Okay, incredibly cringy. I think we need to change the voice and tighten up some of the wording. But in general, that worked. It made the booking. It took all the routes correctly. One thing, just to note if this looks a bit different, is I clicked the auto layout just to make this a bit tidier. It was getting a bit messy. And I also moved it over to flex mode just to give it a little bit more flexibility in case some of our transitions weren't set up correctly. So that was all good. I'm now just going to make a few changes. I'm going to change the voice to Dorothy. And I'm also going to connect this up to a phone number. So to do this, we can go into phone numbers in retail and you can buy a phone number. It's like $2 a month, I think. So we click buy a phone number and you can just select one. Now, one downside here is you can only use US and Canadian numbers. If you wanted to use a UK number or somewhere else in the world, you'd need to probably buy it on Twilio or Telnix and connect your own telephony. But for the purpose of this demo, this should be absolutely fine. So I'm going to buy that. If you're doing this for the first time, you would need to go through verification and provide your ID. It's all automated. It only takes a couple of minutes. But as this is about the 4th phone number I've bought this week, hopefully I shouldn't need to go through that. So we need to connect our phone number to our agent. So I believe it's unhelpfully named conversational flow agent. So we're going to connect that to our latest version. And one thing I recommend doing is setting the inbound countries you want to allow. So I'm just going to set this to the UK just to prevent abuse if someone got this number and racked up your fees. Now, this is not an outbound call agent. We're not triggering calls to other people from this. If you want to learn how to do that, you can watch this video where I walk through how to do that in retail. But we're not doing that today. And for today, we don't need any of these add-ons. So that should all work. I should now be able to make a call from my phone. All right, let's speak to Dorothy.
Luigi's Plumbing, how can I help you?
Hi, I've got a leaky tap.
Could I please get your first and last name?
Yeah, it's Samuel Gruber.
Thanks, Samuel. And what's the address where you need the service?
32 Windsor Gardens.
Thank you. Just to confirm, you have a leaky tap at 32 Windsor Gardens. Could you tell me a bit more about the issue? Like which tap is leaking or how bad it is?
All of them. Very bad.
Got it. Thanks for letting me know, Samuel. I'll get this sorted for you. I'm just going to check our next available appointment times for you. We have availability on Thursday, January 29th from 2:15 p.m. to 3 p.m. or from 3:15 p.m. to 5 p.m. We also have openings on Friday, January 30th between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Which time works best for you?
Thursday at 2:15 would be good.
Booking you in for Thursday at 2:15 p.m. Okay, Samuel. I have you booked for Thursday, January 29th at 2:15 p.m. at 32 Windsor Gardens for the leaky tap. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Nope, you're all good. Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Luigi's Plumbing. Have a great day.
So that's how you build a voice agent that never misses a call. If you've got any questions about retail or building an agent, drop them in the comments. Links to get up and running are in the description below. And if you want to learn more about retail, you can watch this video where I talk through my experience using retail AI after building 12 agents on its platform. See you there.